God bless.
Yep,
Keep going.
Care. Oh. He said keep going?
Yeah. Good morning, guys. It's Dan from the our backyard homestead here. Like I said, this weekend we're going to be doing some sourdough bread. So here we are. Let me bring you guys down in and closer and get a better idea as to what I'm doing. There we go. All right. So it's 6:30 in the morning. I kind of have to start this early in order to get this done. Let's reset this. Because I have to take the starter that I have that I typically keep in my fridge. I put it in a larger container because I'm then going to mix that with a really good feeding in order to produce enough starter that I actually need for the bread. For the bread that I'm going to make, I need 250 grams worth of starter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the starter that I have. I need 225 grams. I'm going to make a little extra. I'm going to make 250 grams only because the math's easier that way. Because then I just take 125 grams of flour, 125 grams of water. I get 250 grams of starter. So I got to start this at around 6:30, 7 o'clock, because I give it 8 hours to be properly fed, and then after those 8 hours is when we actually start the process of making the bread. So we got to get this going right away. So I'm going to take my starter that I typically keep in the fridge. Now I also gave this starter just a quick, a really small little feeding. I gave it a really small feeding last night. Just a tablespoon of water, tablespoon of flour, just to get it activated a little bit, wake it up a little bit, and left it out overnight. Typically, I keep it in the fridge. This way, I only have to feed it once a week. But so yesterday, yeah, I did 1 tablespoon flour, 1 tablespoon of water, just to wake it up a little bit. Also, later in the video, I'll go into baking percentages a little bit more. But I have found when it comes to baking that using weight measurements versus cups, 2 cups, 3 cups is so much easier, more convenient. It's and far more precise. One of the YouTubers that we watch, Kenji Lopez, he actually showed us that, you know, if you were to take a 1 cup measuring cup, and even if you level it out real nice with a knife, right, with a butter knife, nice and level, you will never get the same weight measurement every time. It just won't happen. But by using a scale with weight measurements, you can be far more precise, especially when it comes to bread and hydration levels. And so with that, I have found that, and I know this is going to make me sound like a dirty American, but I found metric to be a way better system to use. It just is what it is. The imperial system is just, well, confusing. The math is just so much more difficult. Okay, so let's get into this. So I need to add 125 grams of flour. So I got I got a bunch of flour here from my 5-gallon bucket that my brothers like to give me crap about. We're just going to measure in 125. That was a little bit too much. Just scoop some out. Scoop a little bit more. And $125 grams. Here I have a bunch of filtered water, room temperature. It's important to have it at about room temperature because you don't want it so cold that it makes the yeast go dormant. You don't want it so hot that you kill the yeast. So I think like around 80 some odd degrees. 125 grams of the filtered water. And we went a little bit over. Alright. So I'm just going to add a little bit more flour. Just so that I have the proper ratio. There we go. We are even flour to water ratio, so now I'm just going to mix this together. I like to use a rubber spatula for this. Just gets all the nooks and crannies, makes it nice and clean looking. I'm just going to mix this all together. I was really excited that this started working, guys. Really super excited. We've been really enjoying the bread that we get from this. And now I'm going to do the recipe as I normally do it with you guys, but down the road I'm going to be doing some experiments with it because the recipe that I use doesn't use a hydration level that I particularly like. It makes a great bread. But I like a higher, like an 80% hydration level. Which, like I said, I'll explain more detail later on in the video. Well, it's later on in the video for you guys. It's tomorrow for me because this that's when it will make a difference. Okay guys, and this is what you end up with. It's almost like a pancake batter type consistency. And this is all we want. Our sourdough starter is now going to be well fed, ready to get to work in about 8 hours. So, we are just going to loosely cover this, put it off to the side, and I'll see you guys in about 8 hours. Okay guys, so we're back. It's been just about 8 hours now. So at this point, since we're going to start making the bread, this is where I want to start talking about hydration levels and baker percentages. And basically what a baker percentage is, basically, if you think of your flour as 100%, so for this recipe I'll be using 600 grams of flour. So that's my 100%. The bread itself is going to be a 60% hydration level. What that means is I take 60% of my total flour, which is 600 grams, and I get 360, if my math is right, 360 grams of water. That's 60% hydration. And then for the starter, it's going to be 40%, so that'll be so I was a little off. It's like 240 grams of starter for the bread, and then salt is going to be 0.3%. that being said, using these baker percentages is a little bit different from the actual recipe that I'm using. I'll link the recipe below. That comes from King Arthur flour, which if you haven't used their flour, you really ought to. Oh, I also gotta make a point in saying that you gotta use unbleached flour. Do not use bleached flour. This will not work. So, all that being said, it's time to start cooking here and making our bread. So we're gonna start out by only using 350 grams of our flour. We're only going to start out with 350 grams of flour. Alright, 351, that's good enough. Alright, we're going to zero that out. We're going to add our starter, which is going to be, again, 240 grams. There. And then, so, the rest of this starter, all this will simply go into a dish. That'll all just go into a dish to be stored in the fridge until next week when I'm ready to make some more bread. It's just as easy as that. This starter is well fed. It's ready to go right into the fridge to be basically put on hold until next week. Alright, and then finally we are going to add our water, which is going to be 360 grams. And there we go, 360 on the dot. And now we just got to mix this all together. So I just I get it going just at first, just get it all incorporated and mixed in. And then you really want to beat it pretty good. The King Arthur recipe will tell you to beat vigorously for 1 minute. I kind of stand by that rule, and I will literally set a timer for 1 minute for myself to beat it pretty good. So now this is kind of all come together pretty nicely. So I'm going to go get my timer. And I'll be back in 1 minute. Okay guys, it's been 1 minute, and once you're done, that's kind of what your dough's gonna look like. Right now, it is very thin, very liquidy, but remember, we only added some of our flour. What's gonna come up next is now we're gonna let this rest for the next 4 hours, which is why I need to start so early in the morning. Because come around 7 o'clock, we're then gonna put it in the fridge to basically retard for about 12 hours. So, I'll come back at you after 4 hours. We're gonna throw it in the fridge, and then the real magic happens and the next day to come. So I'll see you guys in 4 hours. Okay guys, so it has been 4 hours. So now this is going to go into the fridge for the next 12, at least 12. But I plan on starting early in the morning because the next day's process goes on for several hours as well, although it's a bit more hands-on. We're just not letting it prove. But I want to bring you guys on in here just to show you what it looks like. So as you can see, there is so much life going on in there. All those bubbles means that that yeast is super active. Let's just get a nice close look at all that. That yeast is super active in there, so this is going to be great. It's super soft. So now we're just going to wrap this up with plastic wrap and throw in the fridge. Two pieces on there. Okay. We're going to put this in the fridge, and I'll be back with you guys tomorrow morning. at the top of the morning, 7 a.m. Because we're going to have about 5 hours of stretching, then another 2 to 4 hours to proof and rise, and then finally baking. This is a long process, but it's worth it. Tastiest bread ever. Okay guys, it is now 7 o'clock in the morning, the next day, and it's time to get to the next part of this process, and that is to add our remaining flour, which is going to be 250 grams of flour, and our salt, which is going to have to be 0.3% of our total flour, which will end up being about 18 grams. I usually just bump it up to 20 grams. The 20 grams makes a really tasty bread. So let's get the rest of our flour in there. So we're going to go with 250 grams. Again, just little by little. Don't want to do that. Okay, we're at 245, 267, 8, 9, 250. Okay. 250 grams of flour. And now 20 grams salt. Oop, that went a little high on the salt. That's alright though. You'll barely be able to tell, and now I just need to mix this together. So I'm going to get my little rubber spatula. Just mix this all together until it comes together as a really nice dough. Just scoop that right back in. And it's at this point now, all the ingredients are basically incorporated. Now it's just kneading it into a nice smooth dough. The spatula will not work well for that. So I'll just go in there with my hands and just knead all that flour and salt in. And I'll be right back when it's at where it should be at. Okay guys, I kneaded it for a few minutes, and that's about what I'm looking for. The recipe calls for it to be a smooth dough. I usually let mine be a little more shaggy. I still end up with a good product. I'm sure the sourdough experts out there will disagree with me, but I like the bread the way it is. So now we're going to cover this with a damp tea towel or kitchen towel, and we're going to let it rise for an hour. And for the next 5 hours, every hour, we're going to let it rise. We're going to fold it, and then after our 5th fold, we're going to let it rise for an additional 2 hours, and then we're going to form it and then bake it. So I'll be back in an hour to show you what it looks like to fold. Okay guys, it has been 1 hour. You can see our dough has actually risen in that 1 hour. So I'm going to bring you guys in closer just so that we can get, so I can give you guys a closer look as to what I'm about to do. So what we're about to do is called folding. Basically, we're going to get underneath this dough, and we are literally going to just stretch it out without breaking it, and then fold it in. And we're going to go to the other side, stretch it out without breaking it as best as we can, and fold it in. And then from the side, we're going to stretch it out without breaking it. And fold it out. You might get little bits on you, but that's alright. And what this does, the purpose of the folding, is just to strengthen the gluten strands so that it becomes stronger and you get a nicer dough. Okay guys, so that's our first fold. We're going to do this 4 more times. So at 9, 10, 11, and then finally at 12. We'll do our last fold at 1 o'clock. We're going to let this sit and rest for about 2 hours, 2 to 4 hours, depending on how we're looking. And then it'll be time to bake. So, I will be back at you guys at 2 o'clock, or 1 o'clock, when I do the last fold, and we'll go from there. Alright. Alright everybody, so we are going into our last and final fold, at which point, after I fold it, I'm going to dump it onto the counter, I'm going to shape it into a ball, and then I'm going to place it on my parchment paper right here, where we are going to then wrap it with some plastic wrap that's been lightly oiled, and then let it sit for the next 2 hours. So, I'm going to go in with our last fold, stretch it out, fold it over, go in, stretch it out, without breaking up the, fold it over, stretch it out. Now, I'm sure the sourdough connoisseurs tell me that the dough's not ready yet. This is how I've been making it. It comes out really good. I personally enjoy it like this. So, just gotta make something good to eat, as far as I'm concerned. So, and you can see we got a pretty clean bowl. So now, we're just gonna roll it into a ball. And from what I'm seeing, to get a really nice looking ball shape, you really don't want to actually touch the dough a lot. Just tuck it under, wrap it around, tuck it under, wrap it around, and you'll get a really nice shape just by doing that. You'll come away with pretty clean hands. And boom, right onto our parchment paper. And there you have it. Now, I also want to note real quick that before you shape it, this is a point where you can divide it into 2 loaves if you want. To make 2 smaller loaves. I like making 1 big giant loaf. That's how I prefer it. But however you want to do it is up to you. You also can shape it into whatever shape you want. This shape works best for me. I will eventually be putting it into a cast iron Dutch oven that's oval shape, and it'll take its shape just naturally. But you'll also see my hands come away pretty clean as well. So that for me, that's, I mean, there's a little bit right there, but for me that's a pretty good indicator that the dough is in pretty good shape. So now I'm going to grab some plastic wrap. Rip off a piece. I try to make it so it doesn't cling onto itself as much. Now I'm just going to pour a little olive oil. Spread it all over. And we are going to lay it right on top. So at this point, you're gonna let this sit here, or wherever you have it, until it puffs up real nicely. It may expand outward more than upward, but it may take 2 to 4 hours, but just wait until it puffs up real nicely. I would say a minimum of 2 hours, and then we'll be in the home stretch. We'll just about be ready to go. So I'll come back at you when it's time for the next step. It is finally that time, guys. It is time to put this bread in the oven. I did want to mention that I have preheated my oven to 450 degrees. I started the preheat process about an hour ago, and then just let it go until it was time to put the bread in the oven. In addition, I do recommend using a Dutch oven. You don't have to, but I do recommend using a Dutch oven and having the Dutch oven in the oven while it's preheating. So now I gotta go grab my Dutch oven and put that right here to put my bread in. So I'll be right back in just a sec. Okay. So this is screaming hot. So now what we're gonna do, take off our plastic wrap, put that off to the side. We are going to spray our bread down with lukewarm or room temperature water. We're going to take a sharp knife and we're just going to score it nice and deep. Okay. And pop this right on in, and put the lid back on. And we're going to put this in the oven for 45 minutes. Okay, so after 45 minutes, we're going to take a look, and we're going to take the lid off, take a look at our crust. If the crust needs to be browned a bit more, we're just going to leave the lid off and let it cook for another 5-10 minutes. But right now, that's it. What that water is going to do is it's actually going to create steam and a real nice hard crust. So, it's cook time, guys. 45 minutes. I'll be back. Alright guys, so we are all done. Let me bring you in. And the fruits of the labor there. There it is. That's what it's all about. After 45 minutes went by, I took the lid off. It still needed about 5 more minutes. So I just left the lid off. And I also want to make a point that I initially set the oven to 450. But once I put the bread into the oven, I bring it down to 425 and then let it cook. So let's get this bread out of here. One of the things that you want to do is test your bread. You just give it a little tap on the bottom. And if it sounds hollow, it is good to go. And we definitely sound hollow. Now we just want to carefully pick this up and transfer it right on out. There we go. There it is. There is our bread. Fresh sourdough bread made with our own leavening agent. And it doesn't get better than that. In about an hour or so, I'll be popping in one last time to show you guys the crumb of the bread. And then that'll be it, guys. We made bread. Okay guys, so the bread is still quite warm, but you know, you have to get in here and try it out.
Yes, you do.
So, oh, and a wild Priscilla appears. It's time to taste the bread, so she shows up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, let's just cut in like this.
Ooh.
And there you go. There's the creme of that bread. All those nice little gas bubbles inside there. Really nice rise on that bread. Oh, this is gonna be so good.
Oh, yes it is.
This is gonna be so good.
It looks so fluffy.
It is. Oh man.
Oh, it's so sour. It's like the more you make it, the more sour it's getting. This is delicious, y'all. We mastered this.
It's so soft and chewy.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, that's it. It's time to make your own sourdough bread. In the description box, I am going to have links to 2 different places where you can get directions on how to make a sourdough starter. Once you get that sourdough starter, come back here, follow what I do, and this is it, guys. This is it. You throw a little bit of butter on that, that's all you need. It is amazing.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So, that'll do it for this recipe. That'll do it for this video. Starting this week, we will be uploading videos Tuesday, Thursday, and a video on Sunday that'll typically encompass Saturday and Sunday. So this video will be going up on Monday. So that'll be our new upload schedule rather than trying to do every day. I think we did really good for the month of May as far as video uploads.
We killed it.
But we're gonna be shooting now for Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. So look forward to our videos. Make your own homemade sourdough bread.
Yes, please learn to do that. It'll be a blessing to you guys.
We don't even bother buying bread anymore. If we have to buy some sort of bread, it's usually like a roll.
Especially now during this time too.
Yeah.
You don't have to go out to the store and get active dry yeast. Just
Don't even have to buy the yeast.
Yep. Start your own starter and that's your yeast. Boom.
All right, guys. Okay, guys. God bless.
Take care.
Keep growing.
Bye.
Bye.
Bread.
Guess what, honey?
What?
They reached the end of the video.
Oh my gosh.
Well, you guys, you can subscribe to our channel up here.
Or you can check out our latest video right here.
And don't forget to like,
comment,
subscribe,
and share.
and as always, keep growing. Bye.